and welcome to ESL Revolution. I am your content creator, Dr. B. Welcome back, everybody. This is going to be a short video series called What Is It? I happen to be driving in my car right now. I'm heading home, and so the video quality will be a little less because I'm on my phone, not on my regular recording camera. And the sound's going to be a little off, but don't worry about it. It's no problem. We can get by. So in this first recording, this first in a series, short series of What Is It? I want to talk to you about something called PBL. PBL stands for Problem-Based Learning. Now, in the past, the classes that I've taught have used something called a communicative method in order to encourage and help students actually speak in the classroom. And it has been, I would say, moderately successful. However, there are a couple of issues with communicative approach that, as I've done more and more in the classroom, I've become more aware of, hence leading me to PBL. So, first of all, I need to explain to you what communicative style is in order to share the differences that PBL brings to our classroom. So, communicative approach basically focuses on, let's say, a topic and uses the topic as a launching point out to the discussion that a student group might have. So let's say there's a topic of my hometown in the textbook. Then I would ask a few questions. The students would get into their groups, talk about their hometown, and then we would come back as a class and open up some of those conversations. I'm sorry for the huge sun spotlight right there. Can't really do anything about that because of the sun. Anyway, so that's the communicative style approach. It's just a way to encourage or use the language as much as possible. It is not communicative. It is not an approach where we spend a lot of time talking about grammar and other things. It is a practical usage method. By that, I mean simply we use the language in order to practice with it. No matter how good or bad we are, we at least try to use the skills of speaking in a context. Now, that is a very basic idea of communicative method. Now, what is PBL? What is problem-based learning? Problem-based learning looks at, well, problems, issues, areas that we are confronted with perhaps on a day-to-day or weekly, monthly kind of schedule, things that are going on in our lives right now, things that are things that may not necessarily be problems, but are issues that confront us on a day-to-day basis. For example, climate change is an issue. It's a problem. How do we deal with that? What are the solutions? Another thing could be, let's say, the introduction of a higher minimum wage in Korea. Has that been a good decision? Was it a good decision to start with? What was the in practicality, was the raising of minimum wage a good thing in South Korea? What happened? What didn't happen? What could have been done differently? All of those things are issues that we face on a daily basis. Another issue could be, let's say, a boring English classroom. What can we do to improve the nature and quality and interest and fun in an English classroom. That's an issue that we can, as students and teacher, deal with in order to create a better environment. So that gives us a slight difference in the way that PBL functions. Now, the second thing that is really different, and this is going to lead me to point number 2, is something that I call the 3 C's. The 3 C's, okay? So the 3 C's stand for creative, collaborative, I forget the third one. Creative, collaborative, and critical. Creative, collaborative, and critical. Those 3 things are really important to the PBL process, the problem-based learning process. Now, there's another reason why these things are important. The 21st century world that we live in right now is so different from the way that I think a communicative method actually allows for. Now, what do I mean by this? What do I mean? Well, take our 3 C's: creative, collaborative, and critical. In the new 21st century world that we are living in, it's 20 years old now, but in this world that you are getting into, you are in university, essentially your next stage in life is going to be finding a job, and the communicative method not paying attention. Sorry about that. I had to honk at that guy. He was on his telephone, not paying attention. Please don't do that when you're driving. The 21st century world has radically changed the way that we engage in work on a day-to-day basis. We have things like AI, the gig economy, future work. All of those things are going to come into and play a role in what your future job will be and how you relate to work. Now, you might be thinking, but teacher, what does this have to do with learning English? Well, that's a really good question. Because I think our English classroom needs to be more than just learning language. True, it is there for practice and for engagement in the language. Totally agree. That is an important aspect of our role as English professors in the university for you, is to give you an opportunity to actually use the language. However, another very crucial aspect of our classroom going forward is the idea that our classroom is more than simply learning or practicing a language. It is a way for you to be engaged mentally in what is coming in your future. And there aren't a lot of programs right now at the university that allow for that kind of diverse thinking. Quite often in the university classroom, just as in the high school and middle school and even elementary classrooms, it's very much in the past, it's changing a little bit now, but in the past, it has very much been this idea that I've got to memorize as much information as I can in order to memorize the textbook, in order for me to do well on a test, and that test will give me a better position in the next level of education. That memorization of material does nothing if you don't have an integrated approach into those 3 C's: communicative, collaborative, and critical. And PBL offers that distinction in the classroom. Because if you don't have those 3 things, if you don't use those 3 things, practice those 3 things, you are going to be at a distinct disadvantage in your future work. Now, over the last 6 to 7 months or so, I've been doing a fair amount of reading and research and actually teaching and mentoring in the ESC program to actually have students understand this. So I'm bringing some of that ESC work into our regular classroom by actually changing the way the classroom functions. Now, I believe that PBL, problem-based learning, will be a valuable method in order for you to be better prepared for what the 21st century has to offer. Now, right now I'm 47 years old. I have about 15 years before I retire, officially, which means that the way that I have grown up working, the way that the style of my work probably will not exist when you are 47 years old, because the nature of work is going to dramatically change. So as I have been critical, self-evaluative about my role as a professor, it is necessary for me to engage you in a way that you can be successful in that future. Because if I don't do that, if I don't help you understand what is coming in the future, I have failed as a teacher. Plain and simple. Because my job is to help you become successful. And if I don't do that, I'm not doing my job. And so PBL is the method, it's the vehicle by which you can understand the language, but also prepare those critical skills that you'll need for your job. No matter what major you are taking, no matter what major it is, it doesn't matter. No matter what major you're in, you may come up against a situation in your life where automation or AI or other kind of technical aspects literally remove you out of that job. Well, what can you do that distinguishes yourself against other people? And that's really what it is. It's how do you distinguish yourself amongst other people? Those 3 C's that I told you about, creative, collaborative, and critical, those 3 things will give you an edge in terms of your future work. And I'm not going to talk about those three things specifically, because in fact, those 3 things are going to be 3 different topics. What is it? Critical. What is it? Collaborative. What is it? Creative. What do those 3 things mean? And how does it relate to PBL? How does it relate to your classroom? How does it relate to your major? How does it relate to your future? If you don't understand those things, you are going to have significant difficulty in the 21st century work. From all accounts that I've read, those 3 things generally are in the top 5 of things that people need to do now in order to make sure that they are prepared. So the language classroom that you and I are engaged with on a weekly basis, don't think of it as simply just a way of talking. Oh, I have to do English because I have to get my 2 credits. No, it goes way beyond that, ladies and gentlemen, way beyond that. This classroom is unique in the ability to teach you something practical that you can use over the next 5 to 10 years. And I will add that what I'm teaching you in the classroom will be useful in any major that you are doing right now. Any classroom that you are engaged with right now, these skills can be used for you. These skills can be used and practiced over the next few years. Now, there's a reason why you've got to do this. Because if you don't, if you don't practice these things consistently in the classroom and outside the classroom, like I said before, you're going to have a distinct disadvantage. That's first. But second of all, it's going to be harder and harder to get into these things the longer you go. So, practice makes perfect, right? The more you practice these things, the better advantage you are going to have in the future, because these things will be natural to you. These things will just be naturally occurring. You don't even have to think about these things as time goes on, because you will just begin to automatically do them. So there's lots coming down the pipe in terms of the What Is It this What Is It series, and I hope that this leaves you with some real good distinguishing characteristics as to what this classroom is going to be now that you are engaged in it. And it doesn't matter whether you are a first-year student and this is your first semester, whether you are a returning student and taking this class again, it doesn't matter. Use it. Use the classroom. This is more than just learning the ABCs and grammar and basic conversation. This class will give you the opportunity to learn and use so much more. So as you can see, I'm kind of, I'm at home right now and my camera's gone all grainy. So it's time for me to log out. Thank you very much, everybody. And remember, be the revolution. Woo, bump.